Alright, so before we get started here, I know I'm going to have to address this specifically because I had to for the last time that I reviewed one of these products. So before we get on to a 12,000 round review on a particular trigger kit here, I have to lead off by saying this individually. I am not here to exchange in pearl clutching with folks. I am here to get effective products that do exactly what they are intending to do without destroying my guns. I need trigger kits like this to not artificially accelerate rate of fire past intended cyclic rate, because 1,000 round per minute MP5 is a really great way to mulch the insides of your guns, and I do not shoot my guns once a year. A mid-length AR that is cycling at carbine length speeds that have heavy gas port erosion is not healthy for the friggin' rifle that it's in. I do not need to be modifying the product itself, nor the receiver that it's going into, in order for me to check off something as usable, because at that point it's not. And I absolutely do not need a friggin' crossbolt safety in my rifle ever. And then of course when I say this, the pearl clutching folks are going to pearl clutch and say, oh, you should look into it. And what's hilarious about that is that summarized is exactly this. You had a company that spent $3 million, which is more than someone that starts at $100,000 a year tax-free for 20 years that doesn't actually even get 2/3 of the way to that. That's more than most people will make in a few lifetimes. $3 million unassisted by the rest of the industry just to make a particular product legal is already enough for me to sit here and look at a lot of these folks, pay attention to a lot of the gripes that they have with this particular company, and chalk it up to sour grapes. Never mind the fact that not only do they own the patents for their cassettes, they also own the patent that was made off of a modification for an open source product, which is a super safety with a regular selector in there, and they're protecting those products too. Part of the settlement that they reached with the US government that they went to battle with and won over a product like this, which is wild, was no pistol versions, promote safe and responsible use, and enforce your patent, which they do on the cassette version and the modification of the open source product. This is normal business behavior, because extra fast semi-auto kits that have come out that have nothing to do with either one of these designs have not been come after. So weird how that works. And again, if we're going to toss a morality clause on every single thing that we buy, every Colt that you've ever bought, every Glock, every Smith & Wesson, literally anything from Winchester, every HK, and good lord, literally any Chinese product should be ejected from your house promptly. And simply sitting there trying to pearl clutch over what is making people foam at the mouth today is a phenomenally hypocritical stance to take. Again, I am here for superior products that don't make the guns I put them in worse or destroy themselves. So with that said, I'm going to get on with this 12,000 round review. Right, so I've said it once and I've said it a million times. PCCs are basically useless because there is no point of a subgun without the machine part. And in this particular sense here, this actually mimics that perfectly. Now, I've mounted this particular trigger kit into 2 different units. I fired 12,000 rounds through it. But the thing about this is that this is actually 2 different units that have 6,000 rounds on them apiece. Now, the first one that I used was basically like the very second that the product itself released. And the second one was picked up a couple of months after that, and I actually do notice a difference between the 2 different products. Now, when the product just released, there was a specific quirk that I noticed with it individually, and some of the guys that I also know personally that picked up MP5 units also noticed the same exact thing. And once you were to put the thing on safe, if you tried hard enough, even after you tightened up a particular screw behind your safety detent, which tightens up your safety lever, or at least a safety lever snicks, all 3 of us noticed that you could actually force the lever a little bit higher than the regular safe mode. Now, it seemed to bind up a little bit, and it seemed like it wasn't supposed to go there, and it would fight you a little bit too, so it was actually really hard to do this, but we call this like the ultra safe mode, right? Because we had safe and then like even higher above safe, but that never caused any functionality problems, and at least I noticed this between the 3 units that we have. And oh, by the way, between the 2 units that I have and the 2 that a couple of friends of mine mine picked up, all 4 of these were for Navy lowers. In other words, they have ambidextrous safety levers, because that's just how you should use an MP5, really. And to clarify, this is all some stuff that you should do essentially during your installation process, right? Because what you need in order for this to work is you need the pre-existing ejector from the gun that you're putting it into. Meaning, if you've already picked up one of these and then you have to mount this trigger kit into it, it actually requires the ejector from that gun and the friggin' spring for it. And it's super simple to get all of this into place. Once you have that ejector into the actual trigger kit, the next thing that you really need to do, once you've mounted it and the safety levers into the grip module itself, is to go into a specific screw that's right behind the detent for your safety lever, and you can manually tighten that to whatever tension that you would like. Some guys like stiffer safety levers, that's me personally, and some guys like looser safety levers, but the cool part about this is that you can actually adjust that for whatever it is that you're doing. And I noticed that the unit that I received, actually now a few months after I picked up my first unit, you cannot actually overshoot that safety lever past a regular safe notch. It's just a hard stop at that point, right? So I guess the very first unit that I received was like the first couple of production units, and a couple of guys noticed some stuff. They fixed that immediately and then just kept pushing units, which is fine. I've seen that before, and especially in product development like this, when you release a brand new product that nobody's really got right, at least in my eyes in this, because again, 1,000 round per minute MP5s are stupid. You're likely to have more than just a couple of teething issues, and I'm glad that that was basically the one. Once installed and once the guns were zeroed, the first thing that I wanted to know more than anything else is this reliable enough to be considered as a primary trigger kit for an actual self-defense arm? And in this particular case, especially with the configuration of gun that I'm pushing for here, it's one of those collapsible PDW style guns where the MP5 is shrunken on the rear end versus the front end. As far as the front end goes, I kept it full size because I want the shooting characteristics of that, but then the rear end collapses rather than folds because I want it to get shorter rather than wider. And one of the first questions that a lot of people ask me is, if I pin that trigger down as hard as I can, or really, really hard, do I cause functionality issues? Because there are other trigger kits on the market to where you have to do this weird floaty bit to where if you put slightly above average trigger pressure on it, it basically slows down or completely stops the system whatsoever. And I'm very happy to report that of the variety of MP5 trigger kits that exist in this category, just like their AR triggers, you really can't stop the gun all the way if you put too much pressure on the trigger shoe. The closest thing that I ever noticed from this was I started to notice a slight decrease in cyclic rate of fire. And the very second that my brain detected that the gun's slowing down a little bit, I also noticed that I'm applying a amount of strength onto the trigger shoe itself. This actually happened to me on one occasion on both trigger kits, and both times it was because I was using my left hand rather than my right. My left has always been a little bit stronger than my right. Obviously, it's my dominant hand. And fun fact, before people ask me even more, the reason why you guys have seen a dramatic shift over to the right hand side versus the left is simply because this shoulder is coming apart, and I'm going to have to do something about this rather soon, but it's a combination of machine gun shoulder, repetitive motion injury, just a whole bunch of shit's going on here, so I'd rather not have to put too much on this side. That's why you see me almost exclusively shooting right-handed. But like I said, as far as feature set and that sort of stuff, that's really just it, really. It's a solid trigger kit that asks for an existing ejector and spring. That takes 2 seconds to install the thing, put your levers in, tighten up your tension for the amount that you want behind the friggin' safety levers, and go like you're good. And yes, there is an SCF unit, but I have not used that like at all. I've used an AMBI trigger kit that was specifically made for Navy lowers. One critique that I do actually have on the system though, and it's just a personal preference, is that the safety levers that ship with it are standard length, and I would much more appreciate it if they were extended standard. I understand the reasoning. I can sort of understand the reasoning behind standard levers. Maybe not everyone wants the extended levers, but come on, we want the extended friggin' rig and levers, just ship those standard. You never really have to ship the non-extended levers basically ever again if you were to just straight ship these with extended levers. But even still, if that's the case, and even with the standard levers, all I have to do is good techniques that accommodate that. Gun short doesn't matter all that much in the first place. It's just a tiny ergonomic thing for me personally. But that's the feature set. Let's get on to what everyone really wants, and that's the reliability part. Okay, so we have 2 units with 6,000 rounds on them apiece. How was the overall reliability of the system? And that is a really quick answer. It was stellar. Not only does the gun function in the way that it is supposed to function in the semi-auto mode, or the semi-auto trigger for it, it is also much better than you would normally expect out of the vast majority of MP5 triggers that exist. In stock standard or military MP5s, that semi-auto trigger is pretty bad. And for something like this, the entire point of a semi-auto mode is to thread the needle. That is much harder to do when I have a trigger that's kind of heavy with a lot of steps in it and the press itself is pretty long. That has always annoyed me a bit about the overall design, and with this one in particular, it is much better than in military MP5s or actual machine pistols. There was no weird stepping. I've been asked about trigger slap in the past, and that's just an alien concept to me because I don't feel it from any of these systems at all, and least of all on the MP5 trigger kit. And as far as the faster semi-auto mode is concerned, dude, this was so reliable, and the cyclic rate of this was so close to a legit MP5 that I've actually been asked by more than one individual if I'd actually gotten my hands on a post sample. And considering the market that's out here with these trigger kits and how much they increase the cyclic rate of fire on the guns themselves, I would call that a good thing. Because again, and I'll say it for everybody in the back, there is no good reason for 1,000 round per minute MP5 if you expect those internals to hang around long term. And yes, I imagine that that'll go over the heads of some folks that barely shoot their guns, but if you want the thing to hang around, and if you want it to actually be worth a shit after a few thousand rounds, or 10 or 20 or 40, 1,000 round per minute MP5 is not the appropriate way to go. Never mind the fact that the defining characteristic of something like this is that it is extremely controllable, and when you ratchet up the rate of fire on it to 1,000 rounds per minute, you're making your life harder for no reason. So yeah, on the reliability front, it's been straight up boring. And at this point, I've got quite a few of these trigger kits, and I put many thousands of rounds on all of them but the one in the MR556, and that's only because I haven't put that particular upper end trigger kit through a billion different testing regimes with a bunch of different optics. Matter of fact, it would be going through that now, except for the fact that I have a PSA Saber upper that is testing also an Arkin optics 1:8. Point being that I just straight up do not experience the reliability problems that I see a lot of people talking about on a regular basis, and I definitely don't see the extra modification required that tons of other people are talking about. This, in fact, is no exception to that, and as a matter of fact, painless and boring is literally the only descriptor that I can put on it, because I can't shut it down. The rate of fire is literally exactly where it needs to be. The semi-auto trigger is better than that of an actual MP5, like a select fire MP5, and even down to the small stuff, like I can actually tweak the tension on the detent for my safety levers so I can put it exactly where I want it. All of this measures itself up to a supremely reliable system that does incredibly well at the job, and this is so good, in fact, that it single-handedly, at least for me, revives the entire concept of the PCC, primarily because that descriptor is kind of dumb. I would so much rather have an SMG, because there is no point otherwise. The way I see it is that guns like this occupy a particular niche. That particular niche requires the guns to have a very specific rate of fire. They are required to be incredibly controllable. They are required to get small, and anything that you hang on the gun needs to basically stay as out of the way as possible, which is why I picked a particular handguard that I have on this, and a particular brace, and a particular optic. All of these things mesh together to more or less balance its overall size with the ability to deliver a very specific amount of firepower and also be incredibly offensive when required, because leveraging from appropriate amount of defense to appropriate amount of offense in order to make the problems go away is exactly what it is that you need in those particular scenarios, regardless to whether or not what it is that you were shooting at is armored or not. The emphasis on all of this is, yes, I can reach out a little bit further, but the entire point of its existence is to be incredibly dominant in small spaces. And not only does a trigger kit like this make this entire system make sense, but it also single-handedly, at least in my mind, revives the civilian subgun concept. And because it's in a delayed blowback like this friggin' AP5 that's sitting here, it is now in the very best class of firearm that it could possibly be. Weapons manipulation and stuff like that is always something that a bunch of nerds are going to whine about. But the really important thing that you have to be tied down to, at least in my mind, is to stay as shootable as possible and then have your weapons manipulation sharp enough to deal with the fact that, yes, it is a little bit slower than an AR style gun. Big deal. At least in the realm of MP5, all you have to be is not trash, and you compensate for that very well by shooting significantly better than everyone else's gun without having to add a bunch of nonsense. So, to me, regardless of the pearl clutchers that are in the back, I don't care about these people. I care about the product, I care about what it can deliver, and in this particular sense, if you're watching this, avoiding all that nonsense, and simply trying to make a decision on what is the most effective to defend you and yours, get off the fence. This is it. It's by far the best one, without remote question. So, if you'd like to come out and train with us, you can absolutely do that. I'm waiting for a fiscal year schedule, which, matter of fact, just hit, so now I have to start the process of adding a bunch of courses to the actual website. Right now, we have one for Pennsylvania. That is in September, and we also have, aside of some privates here and there, we also have a pistol set in December. That would be in Mississippi. In addition to this, if you want to follow all of our social media stuff, including the Discord, that's absolutely an option. If you want to support us through Patreon, you can absolutely do that. $41 a month gets you as much open enrollment training as you'd like, unless it is a soft skin vehicle course, because that's logistically challenging and I have to spend a lot of money to bring cars in, remove them, things like that. And also, if you want to check out some nerd stuff, I have a nerd stuff channel that deals with like gaming and stuff, ready or not. The Halo Campaign Evolved series is actually getting its own scathing review. You know, it's a short little 6-hour review on that. Links to all of this are in the description below. But if you want to check all that stuff out, great. If you don't, cool. Leave a like, leave a comment, sub if you want to, and remember guys, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.